episode 6 of the Gifford Provider Podcast. I'm Scott Fleischman. My guest is physical therapist Troy Stratton. He's going to tell us what we can do to keep our bodies healthy and active heading into the new year. But first, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Please give this video a like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. On our YouTube page, we post important information, including these podcasts, which tackle a number of topics from men's and women's health to the right things to eat around the holidays. As also on this page, we post feature stories, staff testimonials as to why they chose to work here at Gifford. And it's not just Gifford Medical Center that's featured on our YouTube page. We have stories from residents at our senior living facility, Morgan Orchards, and inspiring stories from our annual Last Mile event that supports palliative and end-of-life care programs here at Gifford. You can also go to giffordhealthcare.org for the very latest information on the COVID-19 pandemic, including our drive-through testing and vaccine clinics. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. That way, you will never miss anything going on right here at Gifford. And speaking of not missing anything going on here at Gifford, Troy, you've been here since 2007, working at our Kingwood Health Center in Randolph, at our Sharon Health Center. What is it about Gifford that's kept you here for close to 15 years?
Gifford is a special place, and I've been very fortunate to be here for this long. I came as a staff physical therapist, and I started in the Sharon Health Center, and you meet great colleagues, professionals, and now that I'm kind of in the role I am as the manager, it's being able to touch, through senior management and them helping me gain more skills in my professional career and my leadership role. It's been, invigorating. It's been exciting. There's not a dull day, and that's kind of what anybody wants in a career or a job. So that's where I'm at, and I don't think I see any change in the near future. I'm quite lucky to work with the group I do in our rehab clinics.
Now, for new employees, Troy is really the first guy you meet because, like when I was hired here, you have to take an employee stress test to see if you can handle, physically some of the tasks. And so before I even walked into the hospital here, I met with Troy over at the Kingwood Health Center, and we went through a couple of physical activities just to kind of show that everything's working or should be working. And you probably see that a lot. Everybody just comes kind of through you first.
We are very fortunate here at Kingwood Health Center to meet most of all our employees at Gifford for the first time, and we might be the first faces they see. And so we get to kind of chit chat with them, kind of where they came from, and then just run them through a very simple, straightforward physical assessment to make sure they're safe and knowledgeable about their physical abilities that they have to do for their job. So yeah, it's nice, our office manager, Caitlin, myself and other therapists, it's kind of nice to make that connection because we do have so many offsite clinics and resources at the hospital. We can at least put a face to the name down the road.
Now, you don't have to, give too much away, but I was probably the best employee that came through there. Right?
No doubt.
There were some things that, in my previous line of work where I was carrying so much equipment around, and we never had to do anything like that. And I think it's a pretty good thing that Gifford has employees do that, because there is a lot of strain that can come on the body just from sitting at a desk, right? There's just certain things that you can, little nagging injuries that can happen.
Correct. I mean, our bodies love to move. The more motion we can do throughout our day, the better. Yes, we have to be careful of the extent of the extreme lifts or carries or awkward transfers that we do with patients. But overall, then we have the opposite end of the spectrum where people are sitting behind desks, coding, accountings, managers. We want to make sure that they're up and about. They know the difference between sedentary and active lifestyles. And sometimes as simple as setting a timer on their computer or their phone So they know to get up, at least stretch out, stand, put some weight bearing through their joints, walk to the other end of the office to get the copy off the copier machine. Those types of things go a long ways in your day.
And we can get more into that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about you some more, a University of Vermont graduate. You're a member of the American Physical Therapy Association. What was it about physical therapy? What to want to get into a career like that?
That's a good question. I mean, physical therapy at first, when I began my search for a career or a study at school, was more sports, active. That's what I did in high school. That's what I knew. So I had to do a senior project actually in high school about it. So I delved in it a little bit further. I did my shadowing and my observation hours here at Gifford back in the day when the outpatient was in the hospital, and with all those great therapists. As I got through my career at UVM, I would say, even in the last 2 years, I wasn't quite sure what, if this PT was going to be the thing. And then you go on your clinicals and you really make those connections and you're like, okay, I understand what they're trying to teach me in those classes. And now I can put it into use. So it was a great career choice. I truly enjoy every day. That's why as a manager, I still see quite a few patients throughout my week, mostly in our Sharon Health Center, and then some here at Kingwood.
And, you talked about athletes, and obviously there's injuries that come there. There's plenty of work when it comes to athletes, but when you're in Vermont, you have these unique jobs that also these injuries can come up from lifting or carrying around heavy loads, like a logger, for example, stuff you don't really see in most other places. I'm sure a lot of the business is spent with those folks who work in those types of jobs as opposed to, professional athletes.
My description and a lot of our descriptions of an athlete has broadened greatly, and especially here in Vermont, we don't have a high number or percentage of high-end athletes that are running marathons or doing triathlons and so forth. So yes, we see mechanics, roofers, loggers, people that just want to stay active and do their career or their profession at the highest quality. So yeah, we see some very interesting things, from falls and trips and crush injuries. But the main goal is to get back to a good livelihood for their families, for themselves. So that makes it more interesting because they are our neighbors, our community members that we see at the local gas station or the pizza shop. So yeah, we make great connections, and I think that's why our staff stays and we have good retention in our staff here at Gifford.
Community members like myself who are looking at the new year, the calendar turns, and you always make those New Year's resolutions. I mean, some people say they don't do it, but most of us do. We want to start fresh in the new year. Most of us will look at our physical well-being as one of those things to put on the list. I know, I could lose a few pounds. I could get in better shape. I think that's the mentality of a lot of people. And what happens is, the gym memberships go up in January and February, but you don't see those folks come April and May. And is it a matter of just everybody kind of really overdoing it in the beginning and then getting burnt out? That's pretty much what happens.
I think people try to do too much. They make their goals maybe too ambitious. They do it alone. There's lots of little reasons that may come into factor why they don't have that longevity of maybe reaching their goals, or they may reach them and then kind of fall off and gain that extra couple pounds or lose that little bit of strength that they're looking for. The main thing is you got to be realistic. You got to take small steps, baby steps. Sometimes fitness is a really cyclic thing where people start it and stop, and then start it and then stop. So yeah, look at the past and see what's worked for you, what hasn't. It's always nice to get a friend, get a family member involved in this, and so you have some accountability. We're going to set this time aside. or, we're going to meet here and this is what we'll do. But those are the big topics of why people tend to, I don't want to say use the word fail, but, not reach their goals.
And I think part of that might be too, they get discouraged because maybe they're not seeing the progress right away.
Mhm.
But another thing is, if somebody who's never run before thinks that they're just going to take up running and just go, there's going to be nagging injuries that come along with that. Injuries that might be enough to shelve somebody and say, you know what, enough of this. And then they just kind of forget the goals that they started for themselves. So those injuries kind of play into it. People not being prepared to participate in whatever new thing they're starting up for the new year.
Exactly. And the preparation is key, and that's preparing you to, start a gym membership or a running program, kind of do some, talk to some people, read some stuff, get the right shoes, get the right program, moderation. How do I do, there's lots of stuff on the internet about couch to 5K program, walk to jog program. What can you do on a treadmill? What can you do safely in the woods? So yeah, definitely prepare yourself. You don't want to go 0 to 100 within the first week, because you will have soreness. You will have some of those strains, sprains that may slow you down or make you stop. So make a good set of goals. Some people will have to write it down, make a spreadsheet. Others will be able to kind of do it off the cuff, but it's wise to kind of do some preparation, do some research, know what you're getting into.
I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, I had, really fallen out of shape, and running was never a thing for me. But I knew that that's what I needed to start doing to kind of get myself going again. I wasn't, I played sports as a kid and was pretty athletic. And once you graduate college and you have a real job, then, the weight starts coming on with the metabolism slowing down. And so what I did was, I did go online and looked at Runner's World and some other websites to get those programs, because you don't just, and it was surprising to me, you just can't just go. You have to, like on a treadmill, for example, you maybe do 10 minutes walking and then a 2-minute run and then 10 minutes walking again and then and then you build that program up. So there are programs that are available out there online that are easy to do. And I know people want to just go out there right away, but 3, 4, 5 months later, that summer, I started running in 5Ks, and that work kind of paid off. So slow and steady wins the race, no pun intended.
Most definitely. The slower that you can kind of progress, the better you're going to be. You're going to reduce those strains, those tendinitises. And the thing is, people have to realize within the first 6 to 8 weeks of any exercise program, they're going to see good gains. They're going to see those kind of eye-opening wins, if you want to say, when they're doing their workouts. Then the hard part is going to come in is maintaining that after that 6 to 8 weeks, because they're not going to see as much of those progress or those wins going forward, because our body's adapted to what you've started. And so that's when you got to kind of push yourself and challenge your body, challenge those muscles to kind of go a little harder. But you got to give those muscles in your body those 6 to 8 weeks really to kind of take that next level of pressure, stimulus, however you want to call it, to adapt and not have any breakdown or injury. But most people typically, when they go to the gym, they'll say, or they start running, they're like, man, that first 6 to 8 weeks felt, I was making gains every week. I was able to go further. And then it may just kind of slow down a little bit. And especially as we age, we don't recover as quick. We don't make those gains as quick after those, first 3-4 months. So be patient. You got to stay motivated. And that's kind of where that friend, that colleague, that coworker, it really helps. If it's a group class or a group running group, I know there's one in the Upper Valley that people have joined, and there's high-end athletes that do that are helping others to start that program, in that running program. So there are resources out there that can help you be successful.
Yeah, I know that I wouldn't have been as successful running if not for someone that I worked with who was a runner who would participate in all these 5Ks. And I remember one time she sacrificed, you know, running in a 5K, usually finishing like top five in
Mm,
these races. She sacrificed once to run with me
right.
in my first 5K, and to see her name at the bottom of the list, people were surprised, because she was always one of the top finishers.
Yeah.
But what she did was she ended up, then I felt so bad. I was like, just go. She'd finish and then loop back. And
Yeah.
I still had ways to go. So I think that's really important,
Yeah.
having that person, that motivator with you. Really, you don't want to do you don't want to go anything alone.
Right.
So
It's just accountability for what you're trying to accomplish. In your situation, having that somebody that's a little bit above your abilities at the time is you can't. It's worth its weight in gold to kind of keep you pushed.
So speaking of that, one of the things that I learned from her, but have heard different things about it, and we can talk in more broad sense too, is stretching.
Hmm.
So, some people say you stretch before a run, other people say you stretch after your run, some say you do both.
Yep.
Is there a right answer?
There is and isn't. Everybody does it a little differently. I'm on the in the last probably 5-10 years, I really focus on more of a dynamic warm up. We want the body to start moving in all different directions prior to our activity, and that's a soccer match or a 5K run or just a gentle run around the block. You want to start out slow, get the circulation going. So dynamic stretching is primarily moving through different motions of your hips, your knees, your ankles, your upper torso as you go about your motions and your warm up. At the end, I think is static stretching. Static is with the old traditional, hold it for 20 to 30 seconds. That's more what you're going to do afterwards. After you get done that nice run, that good activity of a hike or snowshoe in the winter, you come back, you stretch those muscles out nice and gently, so you actually have a better recovery for the next 24 hours. So that's kind of where I've kind of directed my athletes and my sport oriented athletes is more dynamic, more pre-warm up, slowly integrate it, and then do some static at the end.
But overall, I don't think you can stress the importance of stretching, right? I mean,
So,
even if you're not going to do an activity that day, just to elongate your spine, I mean, speak to the importance of just stretching in general and how that helps us.
keeping your body mobile, no matter if it's from your head and neck all the way down to your foot and ankle. Yes, yoga is a great example of that. Just running your body through its full range of motion, so it has circulation. And I'm not talking about just circulation of your blood system, your circulatory system. It's more of your joint health too. And that's how we have the nutrition go to our joints, is motion. If you're not moving, you're not getting that circulation through and through your joints. So it's bone health, it's cartilage health. So yeah, it's simply stretching out as you stand up out of a chair. And it's a good exercise to do if you're just getting out from your computer.
Stretching helped me immensely. I had an IT band issue a few years back where I couldn't put any weight on my right leg because I was carrying everything on my left side and overcompensating. So it ended up becoming an IT band issue. And just learning a couple of simple stretches with a resistance band, or
Mhm.
just, just using a little stool to step up and stretch out that way. It doesn't take very long, and all you have to do is just do it consistently. And within a couple of weeks, the pain was gone.
A lot of stuff that we do in our clinics as physical therapists, occupational therapists, can be simply done with very little tools or equipment. And that's what we try to get across to our patients. We're not asking you to take 30 minutes out of your day to go to the gym. We can give you some small resistance bands, some pictures, some demonstration. All we ask is some time broken out of your day to try these and see if they'll make a difference. And you're right, it's about balancing your body. We don't want one side working more than the other, and that's when we get overload, strains, and stresses. We want it to be as equal and symmetrical as possible. We know our whole body's not symmetrical, but if we can balance it the best we can, especially when we do repetitive motion like running or any type of cardiovascular exercise, we want to make sure we're not repeatedly kind of straining one part of our body, our hip or our ankle. So it is important to notice those things as we train and take care of them early.
One of the things when it comes to running or working out in general is meals and when you should eat. Some people like, or when you should work out rather, or when you should eat, really. Some people will work out in the morning before work. It says it keeps them awake, and they work out on an empty stomach. That's another, I don't know if that's a, truth or myth, but that's out there as well. Or some people, well, I work and then I go work out because I'm awake. They go that way. And then they eat a big meal when they get home. So, is there a right answer to this? Is there just one answer to this, or is it just kind of vary on?
It's going to vary person to person. And how I tell people is when they can fit their workouts in or their exercises in throughout the day, please do so. If you're a morning person, you're going to roll out of bed and do your exercise. Please get up and walk around and warm up somehow. Get the body awake and circulating before they put stress or kind of put a load through their body. But so to get compliance for people, no matter if it's coming from us from a physical therapy standpoint or starting a new fitness program, we want them to be successful, and that's timing of the day. And I'm a person that when I get home, that's when I want to go work out. Other people are like, I got to do it in the morning, or it's I have no time the rest of the day. I have no opportunity. So it's really preference. I'm just looking for them to be successful. And if they're trying to make something happen and they're forcing it, it's not going to have the longevity effect and the kind of the true benefit. So the meals, I think you had Stacy on Pelletier, our registered dietitian, last month. She is key on when smaller portion sizes, smaller meals or snacks before you work out. So you do have to have something in your stomach because you're going to start burning calories, and you're going to continue to burn calories after you work out. So you still need to have something a little bit afterwards too, because your body is going to use that fuel up.
That podcast with Stacy Pelletier on our YouTube page. Yeah, we spoke about nutrition over the holidays, and we also talked about New Year's resolutions and people wanting to change up their diets and what to eat and what not to eat. So check that out if you haven't already. So we've talked about, when's the best time to work out, and that differs. We've talked about, meals, but then there's work itself. And we talked about this earlier. You did give us some great tips because some people are stuck behind a desk for 8 hours, and it can, if you're hyper focused, then it's tough for you to get up out of that chair because you're task driven. So what, you talked about it a little bit here, but how about some more ideas if you are kind of stuck in the office, stuck behind a desk, you're not going to be able to go out and take that walk around the block, or it's snowing out or whatever?
Yes. I mean, we kind of look at how people's time of day and how much are they in front of that screen. If it's a person that's their primary job of behind that computer screen and keyboard for the majority of their 8-hour shift, they should be looking at possibly, standing up more frequently. Lots of variables out there, the sit stand workstation, and making sure they do set a timer to interrupt their concentration as they're really focused on that spreadsheet or that document, because time does fly by as you're integrated into a project. And it can be simply from stretching your arms up to the ceiling, coming up onto your toes. The big thing about sitting is we're not built anatomically to sit. We are made to stand and move. And so the more we can kind of get that circulation from just ankle pumps, wiggling your toes, to keep that moving, the more health we have and nutrition going to our muscles and our joints. So the best, every 20 to 30 minutes, get up, move. It can be when the phone rings, try to stand up if you can and talk on the phone. Those types of little things can go a long way to feeling better as you leave the office at the end of your day.
And just like we talked with Stacy, the importance of drinking water. I mean, no matter what you're doing, just to get water into your system so you're not getting dehydrated.
Hydration is one of the most important things, and one thing, things that you can always recommend to somebody, because when we hydrate, it keeps our tissues healthy, but also it makes you get up and you have to use the bathroom also. So you do have to leave the workstation. But yeah, hydration, no matter what you're doing, if it's going for a walk at lunch, or you're in your office for a long period of time, it's going to be a long day because you have Zoom meetings or conference calls or something. Bring a water along, have a mug, have a cup, and refill it quite frequently. It's a really important thing that people kind of take for granted.
Well, Troy, that was some great tips, some great advice for people. And hopefully, when we celebrate the new year and people take a look at their physical health, they take kind of some of this advice and go with it. Because if you do pace out yourself, if you do the right stretching, if you do don't force anything, you do everything according to your schedule and what you're able to allow, you'll still be motivated in a few months into the year, instead of just saying, well, enough of this, and just kind of going back to the old ways. So I think that's, if there's one thing to stress today, it's that it's, do things at your own pace. Don't try to do everything all at once. Set small goals, and then you'll see some results.
Right. And stay positive. Give yourself some credit. You're changing. You're trying to do something new or try to do something again. It's not going to come easy. So do reward yourself with small things, such as a little treat, or maybe a movie night with your family or something like that. So give yourself a pat on the back once in a while. It's important.
Stratton, therapist here at Gifford, with working at our Kingwood Health Center in Randolph and our Sharon Health Center. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast here today. And here's to a physically healthy 2022.
Thank you, Scott.